There's some weak devil fruits with strong users, but there's also some strong devil fruits with pretty weak users. Exhibit A, Orochi, who didn't have much going for him until he got his mythical Zoan-type devil fruit that gives the user enhanced strength and 8 snake heads. With 8 heads, it would mean that he'll need to be beheaded 8 times to die, which helps considering how Kaido just one-shotted him and he came back from the dead. For all the power his devil fruit gave him, he ended up losing most of the major fights he's been in. Just goes to show you how much of a joke character he actually ended up being. Our next entry's devil fruit changed the course of an entire nation. While not suited for combat, Sugar's Hobby fruit was a key part of Doflamingo's plan to conquer Dressrosa. The way it works is, when she comes into contact with someone, they become a toy, and they become wiped from everyone's memory. On top of that, she can instruct them to never be violent towards any of the members of the Don Quixote family, effectively turning them into slaves. The only real problem with the devil fruit, though, is that once she's knocked out, everyone she turned into a toy gets turned back. Although Sugar's devil fruit is strong, she was knocked out by Usopp twice without even making contact with her. Twice! And the same can probably be said for our next user. Baby Five's Arms fruit gives her the ability to turn into any weapon possible. Given the range of her devil fruit and what it can do, you'd think that she'd be one of the top threats in the One Piece world. However, the very thing that holds her back is actually just herself. Baby Five is an idiot. She ends up being in love with every other guy that gives her attention, so there's not really much else to say on that front. Now, considering how devil fruit users drown in water, it's insane to think that there's a devil fruit that allows the user to swim on literally anything. Senor Pink's Swim fruit allows him to swim on solid ground, which helps him with his up-close combat style. During his fight with Frankie, he displayed a fighting style of suplexes that were only possible with him being able to swim past his opponents. Even though he is super hard-boiled, he just doesn't live up to the devil fruit's potential. But this next fruit is so strong that it's able to defeat Zoro himself, but the guy with the fruit can't. You see, Marine Captain Shu possesses the Rust fruit, the Paramecia type that allows him to turn any metal into rust, which effectively gives him the edge against swordsmen like Zoro. But he does have the same weaknesses as all other devil fruit users, and considering his power is only strong specifically against metal, there's not really much he can do against all other threats. This next devil fruit completely counters sword attacks, and the character who ate it once stood side by side with Shanks and the Pirate King himself. So he's gotta be strong, right? Buggy ate the Chop fruit, which gives him the ability to split into different parts at will, or when an opponent slices him up. Just look at the blow he dodged from Mihawk. Buggy can be a huge threat if he ever decides to do anything useful. A Buggy with good hockey can be a serious threat and even earn his place as an Emperor of the Sea, which he technically did, but unfortunately, like the others on this list, he's not exactly on par with his abilities. Our next entry, however, had the power to help Luffy, of all people, break out of Impel Down. Galdino these days is a pretty wacky character with not a lot going for him, but with his Wax fruit, he can do a lot of different things, like encasing his opponents or covering them in a protective substance like what he did for Luffy and Impelled Down, all in an attempt to beat Magellan. But let's be honest, nobody would take Galdino seriously with his hair like that. Our next entry is another Baroque Works agent, Mr. Five, and on paper they seem pretty interesting enough for the part. He's destructive, explosion-proof, and is a literal living bomb. He's perfect in offense and defense, considering he can just blow any part of his body up on a whim and be unaffected by it. But for all that the dude can do, he lost fairly easily to Zoro and some help from Usopp. I guess being hot sauce proof would have helped him on that one. Let me tell you though, if you think Mr. Five fumbled the bag on his devil fruit, brother, wait till you hear about his partner. Miss Valentine's Kilo fruit, coupled with her usage of it, makes for a pretty good downwards projectile, being effectively immune to fall damage while also being a 10,000-pound missile. Unfortunately for her, she's fighting Usopp's quick thinking. I guess there's not a lot you can do on your own if your abilities effectively just make you change your weight. I mean, I can change my weight after a bullet too, but it doesn't mean I necessarily have a devil fruit. For our next one, we have someone who is particularly threatening when she fought one of the Straw Hats. Zala's Spike fruit is capable of destroying things in an instant by growing spikes all over her body. Of course, this includes her hair, nails, fingers, everything else you can think of. As shown in her fight against Nami, she's actually capable of piercing through solid rock with just a single spike. It's even displayed that she can walk on ceilings using the spikes on her soles. During her fight with Nami, there was a real feeling that we would have lost a member of the Straw Hats early on, but considering she ended up being defeated with a weapon Nami was still testing out, I mean, that don't look good for Zala's image, does it? Now, we've already talked fairly about usable combat-heavy devil fruits, but what about devil fruits that are just annoying to deal with? Foxy's Slow fruit allowed him to win Davy back fights, and pretty much steal entire pirate crews with the power to slow down enemies. It's really a no-brainer. So you think to yourself, how could he fail so hard with that kind of power? Well, Foxy could be powerful, but considering he relies a lot on cheap tricks despite having an already powerful devil fruit, he didn't end up being smart or capable at anything else. But imagine shutting down any opponent that you want in an instant. That's what Perona's Hollow Fruit does, and considering how easy it was for her to shut down the monster trio, you'd think that she was enough of a threat on her own. The way it works is that she sends out ghosts to remove any sort of willpower in a user's body, rendering them in a negative state. Of course, that does very little when you're faced with someone who's already negative, like Usopp, who managed to defeat her with toy cockroaches and a fake mallet. An alternative title for the video should really be Usopp's feats at this point, dude. If you thought Perona's fruit was overpowered though, wait till you hear about one of her more dangerous crewmates. Absalom's Clear fruit allows him to turn invisible, but he holds himself back as a user because, well, he's a pervert. For one, he's obsessed with marrying Nami, he's constantly running away from a different zombie stalker who wants to marry him, and his underlings openly call him a pervert for his antics. Look, dude, there's a lot to be said about Absalom, but his devil fruit power is so useful that Blackbeard needed to kidnap him for it. We clearly don't want the smoke from Shiryu because now the devil fruit matches its new owner. If you think the Emperors of the Sea have great taste in devil fruits, our next couple of entries really have it going on for them. If you're the daughter of the Emperor of the Sea, chances are you'll get a good amount of resources, and Broly, being one of the eldest children, has perhaps one of the most broken abilities in the show with her Mirror fruit. With the power to copy any living being and be in control of an alternate dimension, Broly was a huge threat to Luffy, considering he was effectively fighting against himself. But imagine just mirroring Gear 5 Luffy. You're gone! Her Mirror Shield also provides her with an indestructible shield, which can also reflect other devil fruit abilities. Unfortunately for her, however, once you have her bound, unable to use her hands, she's virtually useless. As powerful as Broly can be, it's kinda hilarious how she ended up involuntarily helping out the Straw Hats in the Whole Cake Saga. While Broly did not have a lot of combat capabilities on her own, our next Big Mom Pirate member is perhaps one of their best combatants. Baron Tamago is one of the coolest characters in the entire show. Coming from the Long-Leg tribe, the dude looks like an egg on stilts, with his primary role in the crew being a candy extortionist. His devil fruit, the Egg fruit, is no joke either, having 3 separate forms that change when you get defeated in battle and restart when you beat the 3rd form means he's virtually immortal, and he gets stronger as he changes forms too. This doesn't mean, however, that he can't be beaten, as he is outranked by other members of the Big Mom Pirates. But you'd think that with virtual immortality, he'd be ranked over someone who just turns people into smoothies, right? If you thought Big Mom's children had a lot of food-related devil fruits, our next entry takes that way too far. Having the ability to eat anything and then digest it into usable material is probably a dream come true for foodies. There's no accounting for taste, however, with Wapple's Munch fruit. Being able to eat anything and then convert that into weapons, armor, or just material that you can use for utility purposes is so useful. He's also been shown to replicate certain metals to transform his body into whatever he's eaten. And perhaps one of the most disturbing things that he can do is that he can also eat his crew to combine them into one powerful being. And the fact that we're just getting more Wapple screen time in the Egghead Island arc only means that he may end up being a big part of the overall plot, and I'll have to take this section out of this video. Who knows, dude? Maybe he'll be the one to defeat Emu, considering where he's at in the story right now. I mean, just think about it. Wapple eating all 5 elders and combining them? I get it's a disturbing thought, okay? But we're talking about Wapple here, all right? It's a possibility. Why are you looking at me like that? Of course, what's a king's power to a god's? Enel, with his Rumble fruit, is rightfully called God in Skypia for a reason. I mean, think about it like this. His whole body is lightning and he can move as fast as lightning. Following that, he can channel the lightning on the drums on his back to better channel his attacks. So you may be questioning as to why he's on this list of weak users with strong devil fruits. Well, keep in mind, all of that what I just said is his devil fruit. It is broken. The main thing that held Enel back was Luffy's immunity to him. Which, okay, I get it. You can maybe argue, well, losing to Luffy doesn't mean that, he's weak. Which, fair point. But, alright, if we're just looking at the surface level, some dude with some broken devil fruit got body folded by someone, alright? I swear these Logia types were so overpowered pre-time skip, okay? And if you thought you couldn't touch lightning by ordinary means, how do you think anyone can punch a swamp? Karibo's swamp fruit effectively turns him into a bottomless pit capable of hoarding huge amounts of treasure, and was shown to be particularly effective when he helped out in Wano by sharing his hoard of food with Luffy. However, Logia-type users aren't invincible, especially since everyone post-time skip in the second half of the Grand Line can pretty much use Haki. On top of that, Karibo himself is a liability in that he always ends up finding himself in trouble. Let's be honest though, at this point he's already an honorary Straw Hat, considering how much he's traveled with them already. If you thought Karibo traveled with the Straw Hats enough to warrant the honorary status, our next entry kinda shares that same joke status, you know? When you think of Luffy's pre-time skip defeats, most people immediately think of Crocodile, but there were two other notable contenders that really gave him trouble with Smoker and Magellan. Now think of both of their devil fruits combined, and you get Caesar Clown. Considering that anything that his gases touch either gets covered in a weird substance, gets poisoned, or just suffocates, it gets a little complicated. However, with Law eventually helping out and stealing Caesar's heart, it wasn't that long before Caesar was held hostage and became forced out by the Straw Hats, at least until the end of Whole Cake Island. Our next entry's gonna really make a mark, provided they know what they're doing. Having the ability to never miss your target when throwing things can make for a lot of interesting mechanics. For instance, you can decide to throw a knife, and if your devil fruit power happens to be Vanderdecken's Mark fruit, you will always hit your target unless it gets blocked. This was even shown when Vanderdecken threw a whole ship towards Shirahoshi. The main problem with Vanderdecken having a devil fruit power, however, is that he's a fishman, which automatically negates half of what he can do. I mean, a fishman who can't swim? Guys, the jokes write themselves. But moving on from pirates, we have another marine captain who's fairly capable in a vacuum. Very good! That's his actual name. Is a marine captain whose devil fruit, the berry fruit, again, its actual name, allows him to turn into various balls who he calls berries. Well, that sounds very useful in combat by effectively being immune to blunt attacks like Frankie's Strong Right. For all the defensive capabilities that the balls provide, it doesn't really help a lot on the offensive side of things when Frankie and Zoro can easily block his missiles during the fight. A glaring problem with the devil fruit too is that once a body part is missing, it can't be recovered automatically, unlike Buggy's Chop fruit. This was shown when Frankie threw Very Good's head towards a marine ship while the rest of the body was just attached. I guess you could say that he wasn't that very good. But if you want to be very good, then watch this video right here.